Hello everyone, my name is Mimi. Today is our third tutorial on AutoGen, and we're gonna to explore the example of retrieval-augmented generation incorporated with the AutoGen, which is a really popular topic recently. So first, we're gonna to talk about what is RAG. As you can see on this picture, we have a LM as the generator, and normally we will just using the LM to generate the answers depends on the questions, but sometimes we will need some external source to provide some like augmented context for this question that is not trained on the LM. So the LM does not familiar or does not know the external source which is related to these questions. So we are kind of need to augment or provide some relevant documents to the LM as like a reference for them to answer these questions. So in the pipeline, in the RAG, there's a question, and given this question, we're going to ask a retriever to retrieve some related documents from some specific knowledge base. And the retriever will return the related documents with the questions together, and we will input this into the LM. So now LM can access the external source, and then it can depend on this source to generate an answer to the user. Okay, so how does this incorporate into the AutoGen pipeline? So here we can see a picture. We have a retrieval-augmented user proxy and an assistant. So as you see on our previous examples, we have user proxy, which is served as like human side or tool-based proxy. And now we are using retrieval-augmented user proxy. That means that can refer to our previous image where there's a smart retriever to retrieve specific knowledge base, and here the retrieval-augmented user proxy is served as the smart retriever to retrieve the related documents to provide that to our LM, which is basically the assistant. Okay, so the pipeline is here. First step, the user proxy will have a questions, and given these questions, the proxy can retrieve some related context to these questions and provide to the LM assistant. And then the assistant will try to answer the questions, but if it found out that it does not satisfy with these answers, or if it finds out that it needs extra source of information, then it will tell the retrieval-augmented user proxies to update the context, and then this proxy will retrieve like a newer context to the retrieval to the assistant, and then until the assistant find out a satisfied answers, and it will terminate this process and give the final answer. Okay, so now let's look at the example of code. Okay, so again, we have to read the config file from our OAI config list, and then we're going to construct our agents. So here is a user proxy agent for human, so we can call it boss. So what boss did is actually asking the questions and give the task. And now we'll have retrieval user proxy agent, which is the retriever to retrieve the related documents for these questions and provide to the LM assistant. So there's some special configuration here. Okay, so we have retrieve config, and we need to specify the task. The task is to giving code. Okay, so we'll see the task here. Okay, so the problem in this example is how to use Spark for parallel training in FLML. Give me a sample code. So why do we need retrieval augmented assistant here? It is because the This open source project is developed recently, and the GPT might not be familiar with this, so we might need some external source information for solving this problem. So that's why we need the RAG to assist our LM agents. Okay, so yeah, returning back to here, the task is to generate the code, and the DAX path basically means the documents that we want to retrieve from. So this is the reference documents for the LM to solve the problem, and the retrieve user proxy agent is trying to retrieve the information from this doc. And yeah, this is basically what we need to include in this retrieval configuration. And the retrieve user proxy agent don't need to execute the code, so we will set it to false. Okay, and then because this is a group chat setting, we will have different kinds of assistant agent, different kinds of LMs. And the first one is coder, which is writing the code, obviously. And then a PM, project manager, and I'm not sure what is he doing here, but yeah, I think just like acting like a project manager to manage the task. And there's a reviewer to see if the code is working and give some feedback. Okay, these are all assistant agent, basically is based on the LM. And we have the problem here. We just mentioned earlier to use Bark for parallel training if FLAML. Okay, so there are 3 functions in these examples. I think the author of this example files just want to show you that using different settings for RAG. So the first one is RAG chat. I will mainly introduce this later. So in the RAG chat, we will use BossAid. BossAid is the retrieval assistant agent we just configured earlier, and we use BossAid to initiate the chat. So there's the message is generated by this function, message generator, and what this is doing is to retrieve the related documents based on the problem. So the BossAid, the retrieval assistant, will send the retrieval context together with the problem itself to the LM to solve the problems, and that's what BossAid is doing. Okay. And later, the second function is no rag check. So this is obvious that we don't use rag here. So we just directly use a user proxy agent, which is without the rag, and so the boss will initiate a chat with this problem. No extra source of the information. And I won't show it here, but obviously it will fail in this case because the GPT has no knowledge on the Spark, which is the problem, which is related to the problem. Because this is developed recently, so there's no training data about this to GPT. So GPT has no idea with this, and it will fail if we are not using the rag. Okay, so the third example is special. It is like a little different with the first example. And okay, so the different thing is that in the first example, we're initiating the chat with the retrieval assistant, while in the code rag chat, we will use multiple user proxy agents, and we don't initiate the chat with rag user proxy agent. Instead, we use rag user proxy agent wrapping in the function code, which is available from other agents. So that basically means that other LM agents can call the rag whenever it needs. So it's like a more flexible setting. So we will define a retrieve content function here, which is basically telling how the assistant can call the retrieve agent to retrieve related documents. And for each caller, for each assistant, LM assistant, we can send the retrieve content, which is basically giving it the access to the retrieval assistant. So whenever it needs, then it can call the retrieve assistant immediately. Okay, so yeah, again, we'll start a group chat, and the boss will initiate the chat. And whenever the LM found out it needs the rag, then it can call it. Okay. So here I will only show the first examples because I think you can explore yourself later on this tutorial. Okay, so we will skip the no rag chat. Obviously, it will fail finally. And okay, so we will start the rag chat. Okay, so the first step, remember earlier that we say that it is initiated by the retrieve assistant, which is the boss assistant. So the retrieval assistant will first retrieve the related documents related to the questions and send it to the chat manager, which is the LM assistant. And then the product manager, which is the LM assistant, will receive the question along with the retrieval documents, and it will try to answer these questions. And yeah, finally it works because we are using rag and it provides the important information to solve this problem. So yeah, this is the end of our tutorial, and hope you have a good time playing with the AutoGen.